Welcome, everybody. This is Intimate and Interactive with Adam Weber, our 2018-2019 Tour Champion and two-time Player of the Year. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's the first experience we've attempted doing an interview like this, so I appreciate you coming and joining us.
No, I definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I think we're going to start off with we're going to lift off some of Adam's accomplishments. Adam's been a player in the game and been a figurehead in the game for the last number of years and pretty much his whole adult life. So I'm going to rattle off some accomplishments from Adam, and then we're gonna dive into some interview questions, maybe some tough questions and whatnot. So we'll see how this goes.
Look forward to it.
All right. So obviously, Adam is the Tour Champion this year. He's a two-time Player of the Year. For the WCBT. WCBT's only been in 4 years, so Adam's been Player of the Year 2 out of the 4 years. Adam is the Autumn Open champion in 06, 08, 09, and 11. He's a Canadian singles champion in 2007. He's the 2009 Masters national champion, 2011 Canadian men's team champion and Alberta Open singles champion, 2017 Canadian men's team gold, 2017 TPC at Sherwood champion, 2018 Alberta singles champion, 2018 Player of the Year, as I already mentioned, 2018 Canadian singles champion as well, 2019 Player of the Year, 2019 Open men's team gold, and singles for the last year. So awesome list of accomplishments, man.
It's been a real fun ride, especially the last couple of years, kind of getting back into the swing of things and just seeing the growth of the tour itself. I think it's kind of lit a bit of more of a fire, and it just makes me want to get better and keep playing at a high level.
Because it seemed to me like there was a spot, I'd probably say about 5 years ago, where you're talking about retirement and whatnot. Yeah. Has the tour helped you kind of give him a little more life back into your game and like kind of helped you move forward and just kind of give you that next level type of step that you're looking for?
Absolutely. It's I've accomplished a lot in my career so far, so I'm always trying to find motivation, right? And having the opportunity to get on the tour, right, which was a concept that a lot of people had talked about for a lot of years, and now just seeing it come to fruition, and really giving that sense of accomplishment at a greater level. Everybody's wanted to be on TV. Everybody wants to be on live streams and things like that. And kind of during my heyday, and called mid 2000s to late 2000s, that was all kind of gone along the wayside. So being able to actually see this type of an idea come to fruition and have that opportunity to kind of relive like the glory days, just kind of it gives that little bit of fire, and really wanted to get back on tour, wanted to make my name back on tour again, and go out there and accomplish some things that I hadn't accomplished yet.
So I think like on a professional standpoint, I think bowling got to a certain point where we were kind of plateauing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've won Canadian championships and Masters and Open and done all these things. Yeah. And me personally, I think that's why the WCBT was created, was to create like a next level thing, a professional sport, because we want to be right there with the PBA, and hey, we want to be like the NHL, and we want to be recognized as a sport. And me personally, I think that's the next level that bowling needed, and it's given guys like us that have had a lot of accomplishments, and hey, we can always win. We always love winning golds,
Correct.
But as a professional side of things and getting recognition throughout Canada, I think that was why the WCBT was created, to give guys like yourself an opportunity to go to that next level.
It's kind of like a second life, right? Like, hey, we had this opportunity, and just as TSNs and CBCs were kind of coming down from their highs, and then all of a sudden it's like an empty space. Right, so we're playing nationals, we're winning nationals, and it's not necessarily an accomplishment thing or a recognition thing. I don't think that's necessarily what the goal was at that point, but you always want more, right? And if you're stagnant in this game, you're going to remain stagnant, and if you're not goal thinking and looking to the future, you're always going to remain at that past level. All right, so to have an opportunity to see something new that was out there, and then really start to get that that feel that you wanted to be a part of it, and really wanted to help grow that part of it. It really gave me something else to look forward to, and really go out there and try to accomplish some of those goals again.
All right, so Adam, obviously you've had a successful year this year. We're playing at a lot of different bowling centers, and you've been relatively consistent throughout the whole last few years anyway. How do you stay consistent from one place to the next, from one tournament to the next? How do you, what's your mindset, or what? And obviously we're going to probably touch on a bunch of mental side things throughout this interview here, but what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think it's just a consistency factor, right? So my thought process going into any tournament's always kind of the same, right? It's I'm slightly superstitious, so you start with kind of the superstitious things, getting up, and you're typically wearing the same type of clothes, or the same socks, or something that just has that consistency factor. And then a lot of times you'll drive there to the lanes. You listen to a certain type of music, and you're just trying to get into a bit of a mental zone at that point, right? And then once you get into the lanes, so you say your hellos and do all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you get to the lanes, and now it's tournament time. Right, and you flip that switch, and you go do the things that you're there to accomplish, and take those first couple slides, make sure that you're confident with your slider, and then just go out there, throw some practice balls, and just get a feel for it. But to me, it's just nothing changes from tournament to tournament. You go from a synthetic center to a wood center. Really, there's no change until you actually get to the lanes. So have that same routine as you get to the lanes, kind of sets you up for success, and then just knowing that you're just going to play another event, and then that's kind of your base until you actually can get into the heart of it.
Yeah, I would agree too, because we've always talked about bowling being kind of a muscle memory type sport, and a consistency type sport, and keeping the same routine and keeping the same methodology and same practices going forward. I agree. I would think when I was playing well too, as I kept those consistent routines, whether it's music, or whether it's how you talk to people, or when you get down into those practice lanes, and when you turn that switch on to be like, okay, now it's bowling time.
Correct.
So I totally agree. Like it's all about muscle memory. It's all about repetition and trying to do the same things. I mean, when you're a good player, like all the good players should probably be able to play well at all the centers and all the events, as long as their mind is right and they're going in with a clear mind. So yeah,
I think the biggest thing is not to overthink it. Right, a lot of I don't know, really want to call them inexperienced players, but kind of new to maybe a particular center, or coming to the WCBT. Now it's they overthink what the event is. Just go out there and just play the sport that you're out there to play, right? And then kind of take that all into the experience factor, and then at that point you can start building that experience repertoire. And so next time you're in that position, it doesn't affect you at all. But I think a lot of people overthink going into one of these type of events.
Yeah, it's like a results based thought process, and we're all guilty of it for sure. Yeah. But I've always said, and then listening to your guys' podcasts and with the 5-Pin Universe podcast and stuff, is like, yeah, we focus on results, and that's what we want to do. But we need to narrow that down a little bit and focus on how to get those results, because results are something you can't control. It could be a lane thing, it could be conditions, but what we can control is the things that we can do. We can do the same thing over and over. We can have the same consistent results and the same consistent approach and things, and that will result in the good things. Correct. So I think as bowlers, sometimes we tend to think about, hey, yeah, I want to win the tournament, but hey, no, maybe what do I do? What do I physically need to do in order to win, in order to bowl good, and then maybe the results will come after that. So that's a good example of how Adam will consistently do the same things over and over again, and you can kind of see the results. So there's a good thing for people to look at too, is like maybe develop your own routine and things like that.
Everything's about routine. right? If you're struggling in a match, all of a sudden, or you have a big triple, a big four bagger, you need the next one. Heart's starting to race already, and you get up there, and all of a sudden things change. But if you can just remember to go back into that routine and have that kind of normalcy level, it should at least pull you back or rein you back where at least you can execute that shot to the best of your ability. It may not always work out, but that routine and just being able to think about that routine to get back into that moment, at least it should take some of those factors out. Routine in all sport, not just bowling. All the professional athletes all around the world.
Golf is
probably the biggest one, right? It's the setup is very similar. They go through whatever the shot look, the setup of the actual ball. It's all about that feel in that moment, and then once they're mentally ready to go, they'll execute that shot. And I think that's one thing that I'm guilty of. I'm sure a lot of people kind of have some ill will against my routine, but it doesn't change. Sometimes it gets a little bit lengthier. Once I start getting into like a mental zone. I get some shoulder drags and things like that kind of going, and it's just part of that routine. And once the routine's there, the execution just comes from it.
Yeah, that leads me into the next thing is, as a bowler, we all have our own routines. You have your routine, I have my routine, but stick within your routine. Don't let others ever affect your routine. Yeah, I know you get the gears about your pace and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think in the grand tournament of the tournament, you throw way less balls than anybody anyway. And for a guy like me, sometimes I do let other people's routines affect my own. Maybe I go up there and throw balls too quick sometimes because I'm worried about the pace of play of the tournament because I'm part of the WCBT and helping the tournaments and stuff. But as a bowler in a mental game, it's one of those things where you can't let other people, you got to stay within yourself and do your own game. So I applaud you for that. I know you get the gears and that's the way it is, but
I've accepted it.
We all understand. We like giving you the gears, but we all understand why you are the way you are and how you need to be, and that's okay. And you play well, and you're throwing $130s. We might have a different conversation, but
I'm probably throwing the second and third balls pretty quick in a $130, right? So
and obviously that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
The next guy, if he stands up there too long, he's going to have all this stuff going around in his head, and that's not for him. He needs to just get up there, set, and go.
Correct.
You need to take your deep breaths and concentrate, and that works for your game. So that's just to show everybody that it depends on your game and what works for you.
It's so unique, right? All the tour players that are achieving so much success now, everybody's different. Right? There's nobody that has the identical shot to another, and the routines should also vary towards that individual player, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And quite frankly, there's slower guys out there than me, right? But the one thing I will say is I'm always ready to go. I'm at the lane all the time. I'm not that guy that's all over the place. It just takes that extra little second to get me into that spot where I feel comfortable before I go and execute a shot.
Hey, and that's totally fine. If that's what you need to do to be successful,
Correct.
Then all the power to you. And hey, people are going to get the gears and give the gears and on anything really, whether it's being not ready or taking time or whatever it is. But make sure you stay within yourself and be yourself. And we all know what our game needs to be like and how we need to be. So do what you got to do.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, with the Tour Championship, leading up to the Tour Championship, obviously we kind of had some of the brackets set in stone. Is that something that you'd look at? Do you kind of see who your potential matchups are going to be? I know you're the player of the year, so you had a bye after the first round, so you kind of have a good idea of one of the two guys that you're playing.
Correct.
Is that something you look at, or you kind of want to know?
You have to, right? You want to be as prepared going into any type of match as you could be, right? So I know with my first match, it was either Tyler or Kerry. Right, it's either way, it was going to be an extremely difficult match, right? So then you start kind of thinking about some history in the matches, and I haven't played Kerry very much that I can remember, and but I have recently played Ty a few times, and have been fortunate enough to come through those matches. So I I think you have to be as focused as possible on that match. You want to be prepared. I did like the format change this year without the seeding round. I quite frankly, I don't think we needed that seeding round. It was almost like a time filler previously.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions down the road,
which is great, right? So, and then you're not tired going into the matches of the year. Let's call them what they are, right? So having that pre-seed, I think it helped, and then eliminating that original section.
Yeah, I guess we could segue kind of into so last year we did a Friday night little pins game, invitational type event like we do at some of the tournaments, and then this year Saturday we took out the seeding round. So last year the seeding round was from 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. till 11, and we played 6 games, and then we kind of seeded within the top 4 and from 5 to 12.
Correct.
So this year we decided to change it up, do the Gallagher Cup, my apologies, do the Gallagher Cup on Friday night, and then kind of let guys have a good time Friday night, let guys sleep in, give them 2 hours of ample practice time before they start, plus have a pre-match kind of schedule, as opposed to the year before we did highest seed versus low seed. Yeah. So it was kind of confusing a little bit of who's going to play who. So I thought we did a better job of maybe giving you guys some rest in the morning, and then actually having set matchups of who's going to play who. So I felt like we did okay on that, and that was going to be one of my questions down the road here is like, do you feel the format change was better from last year to this year?
I definitely preferred it. The only benefit, I guess, of the Friday night event, the previous years, that TSN pins game format, at least kind of prepared you for the matches that were coming up on the Tour Championship. I think that was the only benefit to it. What accomplished this year with the Gallagher Cup was nothing short of remarkable. You have 20 of the best players around Canada, having an opportunity to play on a team with many of these people that you'll likely never have an opportunity unless it's this type of a format. It was a fun event, right? So the captains were involved, and some of these were legends in our sport, and having them just watching them kind of figure out what matches they want to see and interact, and it was just a lot of fun, and the matches turned out phenomenal as well.
Yeah, it's crazy that like we're all about money right now and the cash tour and everything else, but this event, other than our little side bet or whatever, but this event was a little different in the fact that there wasn't really any money on the line. But man, like being in the trenches with the guys, and I was fortunate enough to make it to the Gallagher Cup, and being in the trenches, like it's different. It was even different than the Open. Like you got 5 or 6 guys behind you. Now you had 10.
Correct.
And I was nervous, and I think not one person at one point in that whole thing wasn't nervous, and because you're playing for your guys, and it meant something. Like it really meant something. And
I think that there was such a break in between some of the nationals that were there, and obviously, we're doing the Open Nationals in June and the Masters Nationals in July. If you're not playing those events, and then you come to this type of event, and all of a sudden there's so much pressure on some of these shots, it certainly brought me back into that pressure moment of a 9th or a 10th frame at a national event with a medal on the line, right? It really got the heart racing in a so-called fun event. And you got 10 people behind you or 9 people behind you, and you don't want to let any of them down. It's no different than any other team event, but now all of a sudden there's double of them. Right, and you really wanted to, this one especially being the first year, like you really wanted to win the first Gallagher Cup.
Oh
right?
yeah, for
sure. There was a lot of tremendous bowling out there from some of the all-time greats in our sport. It was a really fun experience.
Well, and one of the teams was a little bit younger than the other, so you had like a Tracy Smith and Lonnie and Carrie playing with the young guys, the Titgats and the Danny Bears and the Matt Harms and all that, and a lot of different provinces playing with and without each other, and then the doubles and the singles and doubles and triples. I thought it was awesome. Like it was like pretty cool. I'm glad we had the balls to actually try something like that. And my concern at the beginning was like, how are we going to get 20 guys to commit to this? Like we got people from all over. Like I understand if people don't want to travel from Manitoba to come to it or whatever, right? But it was just amazing that a lot of people were on board. I know a guy like Rylan Willier was a little farther down the line, but I was talking to his dad, and I'm like, he's got a chance to get in, and he's pretty pumped to get in. Tracy Smith, for example.
Correct.
I was really pumped that she was able to come and get in, and one of the first ladies being in it, and like it was just awesome. So I think we're definitely gonna make a couple little tweaks for next year, but
definitely a few tweaks. There's some definite downtime. I think
the 3-player match was a little long.
But overall, what a wonderful experience. I haven't heard anybody say anything on the negative side of that event, and that speaks volumes into the first try at it.
Yeah, and even getting a couple of sponsors, jbrains.ca and Innovator, Aaron Art works for that company, and getting those guys to put in the money to pay for the shirts that everybody had, and that was phenomenal. And that was coming down to the wire too, so we really thank those companies for stepping up.
Absolutely.
We're always trying to find ways to make it better, and sometimes money is a factor in that, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yep. That being said, at the Tour Championship, is there something that you really, well, we kind of touched base on this a little bit, is something that you might want to tweak for next time? I know you've been 2 years in a row. Is there something that maybe we can improve on?
You know what, I love the style of the event. I think there's probably some minor tweaks that are out there. Quite frankly, I just love the event. I love the fact that you can get a pins game style of an event with that type of money on the line and have that much pressure on a single frame or a single ball from frame 1 through 10. Literally, you can lose a match in the first 5 frames and then throw, 6-bagger, come back and win the match, right? And it's a format that I know a lot of people might not think that it's the proper format to have a true
not as
champion
or
the best player in that particular weekend doesn't necessarily always win those events. But in that moment, there's so much pressure on a single ball or going to clean up a head pin. Right, and 15 is massive in this, right? So to be able to stay within yourself to make sure that happens, I think is really important. But I love the format, and I think that's why TSN was so successful over the years. Actually, funny thing is, after watching some of the previous Tour Championship videos, and we started getting into. I saw a match with yourself and I think it was Aaron Albles, and first thing I noticed is that it was TSNs, but it wasn't a pins game format.
Yeah, it was all score.
Right, it was all score, and quite frankly, it wasn't the same atmosphere. It wasn't the same event. So for the WCBT to bring that style back, I think the format works.
Yeah, I think so too. The reason why we created that, because obviously Regina and TPC have similar formats, but Autumn Open and Heritage have different formats. And then, so the Tour Championship kind of wanted to bring back the old school TSN, and that's what we all grew up with, watching on TV and everything else, right? And then, and the format was different. And for me, even playing that type of format, it's every ball that you throw is important. Yeah, I know you obviously every ball in any game is important, but you punch a head pin, you can run a 3 or 4 bagger.
Yeah.
And you can make it come back. But if you punch a head pin and lose the frame, that puts a lot more pressure on you. And you can win a frame with a head pin. So it kind of creates that different dynamic that every single ball is very important.
Yeah.
And if you do end up getting tied, then as obviously that came down to the wire in the final there.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you do end up tied, pinfall is a huge thing. So
right.
Kind of can bring down to it, right?
Well, my match against Ty, I think I missed 3 single pin spares in there, but there was one where I think he ended up plowing 9th frame, 8th frame, 9th frame. He ended up plowing, taking his wood, and I just knowing in that moment I just need a mark to really solidify my chance in this match. And I go up there, I think I got a 12 count, and then I go miss the single pin. Now all of a sudden the pressure on picking 15 to make a carryover is massive on my end, but now all of a sudden Ty's got a chance, right? Because he put the work in and cleaned up that head pin. Right, so it just brings options, and I think that's why you don't see players get too far down in those matches, where any of our tour, individual singles matches, people get pretty frustrated with the head pin. Here, you have to be focused on those next 2 balls.
Yeah, you can't just frustratingly get rid of those balls and move on to the next
15
frame.
can win a match, right?
You still got a
15 wins
chance.
a frame, and all of a sudden you win a match out of it, right? It's
Well, yeah, it was like especially with you and Tyler. It was like Tyler was up 3, like early, and then you punched in the 4th,
correct.
and he didn't clean it up.
Yeah.
And that gave you your first frame. I'm like, he cleans it up, starts another carryover. You could have been done after 5.
I could have went, Kerry or Tim, right? That 9-0, 9-1 type thing, right? So very, very easily could have happened.
Yeah, so it was crazy how at the beginning you both threw strikes. He won the first carry. You missed your corner. You won the first carry. You had a head pin, and then the next head pin, and then you cleaned it up, and he ended up not cleaning it up.
Correct.
Take his frame, and then I believe you won the next 2 after that. So all of a sudden, after 6, we're 3-3.
Yep.
And you're down 3-0. It's like, holy cow!
All of a sudden, that 4th frame comes back, right? I plowed, clean up the head pin. He plows, and if I remember correctly, his 3rd ball was inside, and still just skirted around the 2 pin. But it's a momentum changing possibility, and that's why you don't see guys get down. And
part of it too is like after you miss the corner in the 2nd frame, I'm like, oh, he stuck really bad. And we talked about this in the post-match interview, but Gino's like, no, he slipped. And then we actually found out you slipped a bit. So what was your mindset like? Because whenever we stick or slip, that's up here all the time for all of us. And you're trying to not let that bother you. After that happened, like what was your mindset? Because a lot of people want to know, because we all have struggles with that,
of
right?
course.
So what were you thinking? Like, I know you mentioned you kind of had to fix your shoe a little bit, but how do you get it out of your head?
It's just how do you get that out of the mind? And obviously I had a real difficult time because I ended up missing 2 more single pin spares after that moment as well. And it's probably one of the biggest things that we've got as a challenge is if you're not comfortable in this game, it's tough to execute the next shot. So I definitely had some slip issues that I thought my slider was in okay shape, and I tried a couple other sliders through in practice, and it just nothing felt comfortable. So I ended up just getting the wire brush, brushed it up there just so I could have a bit more of a consistent slide. But I learned a lot from that slip as well. I knew my feet were a little too quick, or my first step was a little too quick, so my slide was actually a little too long. So it did help, even though I ended up losing a couple frames there for it. But to physically get that out of the mind is borderline impossible. Next single pin spare, I think if you go out there and you pick the next spare, execute the normal shot, I think it's gone. After I missed the 2nd one,
kind of compounds a little
bit.
It
compounds, and now all of a sudden you're coming into a 3rd shot, because I had that chop off again, or the 12 count, and go up there, and now it's literally playing on your mind, like, just don't miss this the same, or you're changing something that maybe didn't need to be changed. You're changing a line, you're changing a speed, and now all of a sudden go up there and you miss again. I'm like, what is going on? Like at that point, I was mentally drained.
Yeah, you're kind of confused.
Trying to get extremely confused, right? But again, it's a format that after each frame, that frame's gone, right? And you're allowed to reset going into the next frame. So coming into 10, I didn't think about that last shot. That frame's over, right? I have that complete mental reset going into 10, and I think that's the benefit of the format. That's why I love the format.
I was just going to say that. I'm like, the format kind of is conducive of itself.
Yeah.
It allows you to forget about those frames and to move on. I mean, if you open a frame and you count 5 on a double and you're playing and your opponent's tight and it's all about score, then that's a huge, big loss of points there.
Correct.
But when you're tight in a game, you lose 1 frame, you know what? It's gone.
Correct.
And then obviously if you tie, the pinfall is going to come into play, but that's not what you're thinking about. You want to win all your frames you can.
Exactly.
And that's an awesome job of like just being able to remember that and shut that down.
Well, and in that same game against Ty, I had that. I think I had a double in 5 and 6, and really had a chance to take control of that match. And I honestly, I thought I threw the best ball of the match. Right pocket, exactly where I wanted. The speed was good. It just buries right through. So now, after missing the first single pin spare, now you're having to come up and try to take this second one after you feel like you just got roasted. And to have that same mental reset, it's virtually impossible, right? So you just go back to your routine. You go up there, you take a look at your spot, you go through the motions like you normally would, and then 9 times out of 10, tour players probably end up picking that spare. It's of course I didn't, and that match got really close again, right? So real difficult.
Yeah, it was crazy that match. And yeah, we keep focusing on the first match, but that was it to me. Like I always say, when you win a tournament, you got to get lucky somewhere. Like anybody who's won a tournament and has a 630 to 600 match, or they won that 180 to 170 game, or whatever it would be. And I kind of feel like for you that was, and you're playing Tyler. He doesn't give you many opportunities,
0.
and you're down 3-0. Like anybody who's probably pretty scared, and then you kind of. Then you punched and you cleaned it up and you battled through adversity and you had a few mistakes, but then in the end, you did what you had to do and you got it done. So
and sometimes you just need something just to kind of give you some steam, right? And just kind of kickstart a tournament. And like I said, it happens in pretty much every championship. There's one moment that you can always look back on that, if that doesn't happen, I'm not here. A couple of years back in open qualifying here in Edmonton, there's Chris Hislop ends up missing a pin or
I can't remember how
whatever it was, but I end up getting into that third spot in the provincials by 2 pins. Then go run the table, right? It's that doesn't happen. I don't get there.
It's almost like that feeling of like,
weird.
All right, I'm free now. I have an easy. You're I wasn't supposed to be here.
Well, you're playing with house money.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing happened this year with Gino. Gino did something that I've never seen him do. He needed to clean up a side. His last ball, he picks a 2-pin. We tie. We go play again. Picks a 3-pin, I'm done. He goes misses them both. Like there's scenarios that you're just not supposed to see, and then I take that very seriously. That okay, I'm going to go run, and now I'm kind of playing for Gino at a national level as well, right? So obviously, being able to get through matches with Tim was lucky, but now once I get to that national level, I got that moment kind of on my shoulder, right? I'm kind of doing it for both. So
yeah, you kind of feel like not a freebie, but hey, you're gifted a little bit here. And there,
absolutely.
And hey, you want to make them proud, right?
Exactly.
You want to win it because you were given that opportunity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, like I said, it's all about motivation, right? That little bit of tidbit gives you that extra little motivation. Run with it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I want to talk about a little bit of the mental side of the game, because I always hear this, we got to work on our mental game and we got to do this for our mental game. And what is that to you? What does that mean? Because we're working on it, but I've never actually hear anybody saying what that actually is. So when you say you work on your mental game, or if you do, what do you actually do? What do you do?
Hey, you know what? I think the mental game is very subjective. I think it's very individual.
Depends on the person.
Exactly.
Too, right?
And quite frankly, I think the first part of it is that routine, right? So the mental side is just getting comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, then you're all over the place. You're frazzled. You're not going to be able to execute. So I think that routine is kind of the base of any type of a mental game. And I don't really think there is like a specific definition of mental game. For myself, I'll go into like a practice session, but I'll go in with a purpose. I'll go in with a goal.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And you get in there and you just want to throw the same type of shot, or if it doesn't feel right, okay, are you going to change something in that moment? Are you mentally prepared to make a change in that moment? We discuss it on the podcast every once in a while. In that moment where all of a sudden you're struggling, are you willing to take a mental approach and change whatever the ball or the line, or are you mentally ready to go down that path, because it might end terribly?
Yeah, because right? Like for me, for example, like you can make a mental change, you can make a physical change, or whatever that be. Are you ready to do that? And are you committed to doing that? Is a big thing too, because if you're going to change or try something different, you have to be committed to it too, right?
Again, it's that mental preparation that, I've got this shot in the bag. I've tried it in practice, because it's real tough to try it in that type of format without at least having an idea what's going to happen, right? But yeah, no, that mental side, and honestly, I think the biggest change over the last 3 years for myself is the big mental side of it. I made sure I became a much more positive person. I tried to take the negativity out of every shot.
So is that like thinking more of thinking as over positive results, as opposed to like, let's get a strike, or I need to finish my shot, as opposed to don't get ahead?
Exactly.
Is that kind of the mindset?
Exactly. You don't have to think that if I miss the middle here, I miss the game. Okay, better hit the head pin, right? Well, if you do that, you're probably just going to push it towards the head pin. You're not going to focus on executing the shot, right? And just the positive self-talk. You're never too far down on yourself going up there, because the shoulders aren't always shrugged, right? Like you're up there, you're confident, and when you get up there and you set for that shot that you really need, you need that strike in order to save this game, or to move on to the next round. All of a sudden, your positive thinking alone might carry you through, at least to execute that shot properly.
Yeah, it reminds me of like an old SNL character, Stuart Smalley.
Oh, jeez.
You're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you, right? But that's the thing. You have to tell yourself that. And when you're down, and when you're in, and that's what people need to realize, is when you're in, you need to think about your mental game when you're in a positive experience and when you're in a negative experience, because there's two different mindsets. And when you're in a struggling experience, you can relate back to, okay, when I was playing well, what was I thinking? Like, how was it? Was I being positive? What was I telling myself? And then when you're in the negative factor, okay, this is what I'm telling myself right now, and it's not working. Obviously, I need to go back to that positive one, right? Yeah. So that's what I think people have a tough time struggling with, and to be able to recognize those situations as well.
That's the experience factor, really. I've lived both sides of it. I've been an extremely negative bowler. Every ball means absolutely everything. If I don't execute this shot, I'm mentally done for probably a game, if not longer. That's one thing you'll see about the tour players, is that they're able to get over that within 2 or 3 frames. The longer it festers in your mind, the longer it festers in your game, all of a sudden you might miss a cut. Like just because of that mental lapse, right? So there is some mental strength that the experience just kind of naturally brings out as well. But I think it's very subjective to an individual. And like I said, the positivity change, I've seen that obviously grow my game exponentially these last 3 or 4 years, and that I will have to give a shout out to Mike Lecoussier for that. He really drove that home, and I finally had somebody get it through to me, because lots of mentors, lots of people have tried, and now, quite frankly, that's my goal, is to help relay that message to the masses. It's so huge. It really is.
Well, kudos to you for finding Mike too, because like for me, I wouldn't have thought that would have been a combo playing over the years, and I wouldn't think you and Mike would have been the good combo. But Mike's a very instructive guy. He understands sporting in all levels of sports, and from what I've seen from what you guys did, I'm kind of pissed at myself a little bit. Mike moved to Calgary. Like, why didn't I take advantage of this?
Mike actually reached out to me.
Really?
I ended up at Nationals. I guess it was Regina. I want to say 2017-ish, 18-ish. No, it would have been earlier, 16, I guess. And I really struggled. Mentally, I wasn't there. I got really down on myself throughout the whole thing. Things just weren't happening the way I kind of foresaw it happening. We played Regina Classic there, and I was lights out in there, so I went in with positive vibes. Didn't execute. And on the flight home, Mike, offered, let's get together, let's just talk. Right, we'll get out on the lanes. We'll see what's out there, and that kind of spurred the start of me looking at options of improving my game. So I started researching some of the mental processes that make athletes great, and really started to do some more research. And I think as we get older, we start taking things for granted.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
and I definitely was in the game, and I had 5 extremely solid years from like 2007 to 11, and then what I saw what I thought was kind of the pinnacle of the sport. And then when things aren't at that level for very long, all of a sudden you start looking back, and I had to start thinking about looking forward again. And looking to the future, and do I still have a spot in this sport, or am I just going to kind of go along the wayside as, he's a flash in the pan, he had a good 5 years, and kind of be that guy, right? Mike, he just wanted to get together and let's just talk it out for a bit, right? And he mentally challenged my mind on some shots, and put me in spots on the approach, and gave me targets on the lane that made absolutely no sense, and said, go throw a strike, don't stop until you throw a strike, and just a different mental approach. He really drove the positivity side into me. We changed my game a little bit.
I know you came down on your speed a little bit. I think
a little. While I'm getting old.
Yeah, it's just a natural occurrence.
It has no choice. But I started coming in more from up the gut from the right side, and really more focus on the roll side of it rather than just pure power. Because power gets you through a lot, especially in our game nowadays. But you do need the finger side of it as well if you really want to compete at the high level. So I really got some roll coming in from the right, and now all of a sudden I'm cracking strikes. Headpins are ducking all over the place, left and right side. So now I've got the speed, which is helping me. Now I've got the fingers to go with it. And it's a pretty powerful combination, and we're starting to see it kind of go away a little bit now with the synthetics. I think the fingers were more important with the wood lanes.
I know that's something that I struggle with, is the fingers, and the wood helped me with that.
It naturally does, right? It just grabs that little bit more. So I think the sport's going to the synthetics across the board. From a financial standpoint of the businesses,
makes sense.
You have to. But as a bowling community, we've got to figure out ways to improve our individual games to allow for that, because the pins don't react the same, the lanes don't react the same. Most of the proprietors that are out there are very meticulous in getting these lanes in conditions that are very scoreable. But if you're not throwing the right ball at it, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I think it's a power game a little bit more than it used to be, and with the losing the wood lanes, and you don't, like, for a guy like myself at a medium speed ball, I rely a lot of that back end movement, and with the transition to synthetic, it's just the evolving type of the sport, right? You have to move. It's like baseball. Yeah, it's any sport. You have to evolve with the conditions and evolve with the technology and everything else. So that's something that I work on too. Or I'm trying to work on, is adjusting to the synthetic lanes, because I relied a lot on fingers and finesse. So to people out there, the game keeps changing. So figure it out, or find a way to figure it out, and you got to get out there and hit the lanes. And for me personally, I took that for granted because I'm playing well for so long, and then I don't have to practice anymore, and I don't have to work on this because I'm good. Well, eventually you get old and you kind of lose a little bit, and then that's the way it happens. So if you think, and I even said this recently, I think I said this on the WCBT commentary, so if you think you've figured this out, then you're never going to succeed again.
Agreed.
And it's the same with a golfer, a bowler, any other sport. If you think you figured it out, we can always keep learning and keep growing and keep figuring things out. So if you think you figured it out, you're never going to succeed again.
Well, and the one thing, again, is, track back to the mental side of it is the one thing I haven't played around with, and I just kind of, talk to the podcast guys about is I want to work on maybe trying that mental imagery. And because I truly believe that I've got a level or two left in my game to grow and to really get that focus. And I think that's what the mental imagery could probably do for my game. I did a little bit of research on it. I wasn't too
what is that?
Wasn't too impressed with some of the thought process. Just again, just kind of go back to with my conversation with Mike, that they haven't been able to get that through my head, right? So I need that one person who maybe has had success with the mental imagery, and how they connected to that side of the game, and see if they can relay that to myself, and just play around with it a little bit.
So it seems to me like, I'll be honest here, it seems to me like you're a step above everybody else in the game right now. But also having this conversation, realize that you're doing the things that are needed in order to be like that. But what I also appreciate is you're not done. You're keeping on learning, and in my opinion, I think you are the best in the game right now, and it seems to me like you're taking the steps in order to be that guy.
Well, you got to be proactive too, right? So, like I say, if you get stagnant in this game and you start taking things for granted.
So, are you still working on stuff when you're winning? You win a tournament, you're still learning. You're still
or at least keep that.
Or remembering your thought process, or.
Well, there's certain things that are in game that I'm always kind of thinking, just again the positivity side of it, or if I'm on the approach, there's certain little like keywords that I'm always kind of telling myself.
Yeah, so when you're on the approach, is there like a saying or something you tell yourself, 1, 2, 3, you're thinking about a song, or?
Well, I definitely don't have music going on because I'd be all over the place. But no, it's usually I'll get into that mode. If I'm playing really well, all of a sudden you'll see the shoulders do some weird stuff, and you'll see like the arm, and it just happens naturally. I'm not trying to force that into it. It just happens. It's me getting into zone. I can't explain it. But once I've done all that and I'm getting ready to go, I'm always keen on my feet. Has something to do with either good first step or good feet, like good momentum, like something just positive and something to key on. And for me, it's the very next step. So I've got through my routine. I'm about to take that first step. That's the only thought is that next step, because you start thinking 3 or 4 steps down to that one ball, all of a sudden you forget about step 1, right? So I know if I key on my feet and I've got that first good step, everything typically kind of goes through on the execution side of it.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, because we all have our trigger things or
absolutely
things to think about or not think about.
Again, it's routine, right? Everything will always come back to routine. It doesn't matter if it's 5-pin bowling. It doesn't matter if it's golf. I'm sure hockey guys have it. I know baseball guys have it. Like
beer pong.
Everybody.
Guys got the routine playing beer pong, right?
Like just cornhole, right? Like
cornhole, yeah.
Maybe we can get this on the Ocho.
Yeah. Right? Ocho, that's for you. Okay, we want to talk about the finals and the match progression of how that went. Obviously, we talked about you playing Tyler, and then your second match was against Tyler's brother, the Tour champion from the first year.
Correct.
So, what's your thoughts going against Tyler?
Well,
or Bradley, sorry.
Like what a completely different match. Like they're so different, right? Like Ty is very quiet. Brad can be very loud. Try to get that side of it. So I've had quite a few matches against Brad, more single type matches in league and stuff like that. got off to a really hot start against Brad. So that really helped. I'm notorious for kind of slow starts and then finding the game and getting going. Very similar to the match against Ty. This one here, I finally got off to a good start. So now all of a sudden your confidence level just goes through the roof. And I think that match is done about 7th, 8th frame type thing. And Brad got a couple back at the end, and then. Then playing Matt in the final, and quite honestly, I don't think I've, other than the Autumn Open 16s, I don't think I've played like a match against him. Maybe an Open Nationals or something along those lines. But the guy was flying hot all day. And
I think he started with 2 or 3 in a row every game,
every single
six
game,
bagger the
right?
one game.
So going into that match, I knew you're going up against an opponent that's flying, and to get off to a hot start is extremely important. And then I think I went to open to the first 3 frames again. So now all of a sudden I'm battling mentally to get going, and. That match was phenomenal. It back and forth every couple frames. Nobody really wanted to take the match, and I think that's the format, and it happens to be the finals of a format. So there's a lot more pressure on, and you go up there, you really want that double, you really want that triple, and you go up there, you push the ball and you plow, and then open up for the other guy. And just such a fun match to be a part of, but extremely stressful.
It's probably got to be tough playing a guy like Matt Harms. He's very even keel. He doesn't show a lot of emotion either way, and he's just kind of goes out there and does his thing. And we were talking about that on commentary. He just kind of freewheels and away he goes. So it's
and if he's on, he's throwing nothing but strikes. Right there is no off switch for the guy when he's running hot. So. Real fortunate to come through that match. I had the option to go first or second in that match, which I think I felt my heart racing at the time, so I kind of wanted to let it settle down just a little bit. So I let Matt throw first. Of course, he throws a strike at me, so now my heart's running even further.
It's a tough decision to make, right?
It's tough. I'm typically a guy that likes to start, and I want the shot in my possession to finish. To come through in that moment type thing. That's usually my preference, or maybe a progression of left lane, right lane, left lane, right lane type thing, right? So kind of depends how I'm feeling in the moment. And so I let him start. He comes out with the big strike, and then I think he opened second frame. Then I think I threw a strike. So now you just tell that match is going to be kind of a back and forth until somebody takes control, and nobody really took control of that match.
Yeah, like you got a frame ahead, and then it was 1-1-1-1, and then you got ahead, and then he went, and then you both threw strikes or whatever, and then he won the next.
I think we both threw a couple doubles, kind of really important doubles in the time, and then just couldn't get the third strike. And again, you throw that third ball, and all of a sudden now you take control. You take control of all the pinfall, which is the big kicker in this. You get into a 5-5 scenario. All of a sudden, that extra triple is the 30 pins you need to win that match. And it did come down to the 9th and 10th frames, and I knew going into the 9th frame, having the chance to go bang out 9-10, a real good chance I win the last couple frames, and pinfall's probably in my possession at that point. Matt had a strike in 9, so we had the opportunity to basically match in whatever I did. So again, super key ball, get up there and plow. And it's such a letdown, but again, that format allows you to reset after that frame and then go into the 10th frame and put up something solid. So mentally I know going into the 10th frame I've got to throw a double at the kid to really put some pressure on. Number one, I'm down a frame, so I have to win the 10th frame.
Yeah, I'm thinking like at your point, like a double or nothing. Like
It-
you
it-
have to
it
get a
has
double. A
to.
30 count isn't going to do you any good
Correct.
because it'll probably end up tying you the frame.
And I was down pinfall in that moment as well, right? So all of a sudden, you allow him to go spare strike, and he wins the match anyways, right? So 30 count's just not good enough in the 10th, and threw a couple just incredible shots, really focused balls, and then unfortunately there was a bit of a letdown because I knew I needed the double rather than needing the triple. So the third ball, it's not quite the same.
It's funny
process.
how the mind comes into play a little
it's
bit with that,
weird.
right? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
The one day I was like, I need a 350, and I got it. I'm like, why did I say 360? That
Exactly.
would have done it. You're cutting yourself short a little there.
So through the double, and which I knew was key to at least win that frame, or at least force him to throw a double to win that frame. And then as it turned out, he ends up missing the middle on his first ball. At that point, I knew worst case scenario was a tie. Just the way it was, he throws the first ball in 10. He throws the first strike in 10. And all of a sudden, he's got the double working. He's got the pin count working. It really is irrelevant that he loses that frame now. Now he's got all that, right. So he misses the middle. Worst case scenario is a tie.
He throws a strike. It was a tie.
In the last ball.
Yeah.
So he spares, goes out there, misses, spares, has a strike to tie for the overall score as well. And at the time, I had no clue what the format was. If it was another game, if it was 2 frames, 1 ball. There's a lot of kind of confusion.
Maybe a little bit with us too, to be honest.
Everybody's just looking around
Because
as
we
to
didn't
what happens, right? So again, at that moment, I'm still in the match, right? So yes, I know where the scenario is now, but I've got to be mentally prepared to get into whatever this bonus format is.
So you're already switching gears and potentially
you start looking around and say, okay, you're still in this match, go focus again, right? So then you get down and really start focusing and getting back into the routine side of it again to get mentally ready for whatever's going to be thrown my way in a tie scenario. And then Matt unfortunately punched for him, and then that's all she wrote.
Pretty cool. I honestly think I'd like to pick Matt's brain, and I'd like to know what he's thinking. Is he nervous? Is he excited? What's he thinking in that situation? I'd like to pick his brain.
There's a lot of pressure in that ball, right? And anybody who's had an opportunity to throw that ball in a big moment knows that the heart is flying. Like the heart's racing. You're just trying to keep it together to throw a relatively decent shot, but a lot of people are like, well, just make sure you hit the headpin, right? So again, your mental process changed, your thought process changed, and I think I've definitely had a few more shots than most in that moment, and having that experience to know just go back to routine. In that moment, all of a sudden you start feeling the heart stop a little bit, and all of a sudden you can just go out there and execute. It doesn't always work out, but at least you threw a better ball than just push it at the headpin.
Yeah, because I've always seen I've thrown the shot and I've not thrown the shot.
Yep.
But at least you have experiences that you can rely on, that hey, when I did throw the shot, what was my mindset and what was I thinking and how was I acting, and all these other things that you can pull the experience from that probably helped you in that situation. Yeah, awesome. It's pretty cool to see. It was pretty exciting. Like, first few matches go by and they're all blowouts, and I'm like, oh. But then as the tournament progressed, they're all really close matches, and it was way more exciting, and it was pretty cool to see.
Even the early matches.
Well, they're all carryovers.
All carryovers, right? So they're still exciting matches, but pure blowouts. And
I'm always like, I don't want to be in a carryover, but you want to be in part of a winning carryover as well. Correct. So it's a tough one.
Well, especially this whole experience. Last year's experience, I ended up having to play Mitch. My first round out. So I got tremendous respect for Mitch's game, especially, and then having to come out there and knowing that my A game has to be there immediately, and again come out extremely flat, and Mitch is flying to start again, and then a couple bad breaks, and just mentally I'm done. So to be able to come back the next year, use that experience, try to figure out what other changes I could have done. I know one big change for myself is I didn't respect the oil out there, and in the previous year, my shot would slip out quite often, right? You're in the moment, you're under the lights, you got that extra little sweat going on the fingers. So I ended up bringing a puff ball. Just kind of keep the dryness. So this year's championship, I was able to at least finish a shot rather than, again, you're trying to push a ball to the middle rather than finish a shot. So try to eliminate that extra factor.
Well, it gives you your natural ability as
Absolutely.
opposed to trying to hold onto the ball, really.
And
right?
we see it all the time at national events, and all of a sudden humidity kicks in, and people just aren't prepared for it, and that's honestly why a lot of scores start dropping day 2, day 3, and you just can't throw the shot. So find a way to eliminate or minimize some of those issues.
What's a lot of the things is remembering some of the struggles you've had and some of the issues you've had over the past, and like doing some things to try to fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't always going to work, but
Yeah.
hey, it could be just having a towel to wipe your ball off instead of just using an oily ball,
Correct.
or using a puff ball, or something on your shoe, or whatever it may be. So that just shows that you learn from experiences and remember those experiences, good or bad, because you can, if you have a positive experience, remember what you're thinking, and you have a negative experience, well, what did or didn't do in that situation?
Always try to take a positive even out of those negative scenarios, right? It's, hey, you're not going to win every match. It's not going to happen. But if you're in that good match scenario, remember the 2 or 3 really good shots in that moment, and really try to key on that and use it to focus on the future.
Yeah. Obviously, now we're moving forward, and we're looking forward to next season, the 2019-2020 season. What are you looking forward to on the season? Obviously, know that you can't play the TPC, so how does that kind of play into this year? Business as usual, I would assume, or?
Well, hey, unfortunately, I love the event too, the TPC, but missing it for a good reason. Heading down to Mexico with my son for a tournament down there for soccer, and but yeah, I'm definitely going to miss it. But other than that, status quo. I'm definitely going to make it down to the autumn right away. Hope to do well there. I'm sure I'll end up playing Regina and Red Deer as well. And then really have to focus on making sure those events really count for the WCBT points. Definitely want to make it back, obviously do the Tour Championship. So that's definitely the forward-thinking, side of it. The goal-making side of it. I truly want to make it back and try to defend this title, and obviously do well at the autumn. Autumn's probably my favorite tournament of all, and I just love the format. I love the 16s factor of it, and the battle of attrition side of it. So, and quite frankly, I'm still chasing Bruce, so I've got that motivation side of it still kind of kicking around there. So really hoping that I can perform well there, and then hopefully the Open.
So you're doing Open and Masters this year?
I'll do Open. I'll play Masters. Hopefully qualify there, and for the Open I got to get back and try to.
You got a couple
I got
to
to try
defend, right?
to defend, right? It's the hardest thing to do is to win a championship. The second hardest is to try to defend a championship. So I've had the opportunities to do both and complete both of those, and there's no better feeling than knowing that it's not like a flash in the pan, and being able to get out there and win again. So
that's what I've always said is like anybody can win one,
correct,
but winning two is more of an accomplishment.
And then start adding and just kind of pile on, right? So definitely have some personal goals that I want to kind of keep in my private arsenal there, but there's definitely a lot to accomplish. So I've had quite a run recently. I've got I think I've got a few more good years into me here for things tailspin. So.
Well, that's the thing, and it's kind of the theme of this interview or whatever, right? Is like, as soon as you're stagnant, you're probably not going to succeed. So you got to keep growing and keep putting those goals out there and keep moving forward. Yeah, so.
Well, I've had the opportunity to get on, this whole podcast with 5-Pin Universe with Tim and Dex and Carrie, and having the special guests come on every week or every couple of weeks, and just talking the sport all the time, and just kind of it keeps me engaged in the sport, even when I'm not playing league this year, and I'll get the practice sessions and obviously the tournaments, but just discussing the things on tour, and discussing some of the national issues or the positives or anything. It just kind of keeps you engaged, and it allows different viewpoints that are out there, not only within our inner circle here in Edmonton, but nationally. That just the different thought processes of some of the guys that are out there, some of the ladies that are out there, and we've had opportunities to springboard into like the WCBT women's memberships. That have been, very,
we
very
just said recently had 3 ladies offer up free memberships for ladies,
which is phenomenal, right? We all want to see everything grow, right? And I think that's why maybe that's my purpose moving forward, right? Obviously, I want to keep playing these events. I'm not an association type guy, so
I was going to say,
I'm
never
not
really
been
involved
too
in
much
that
in the
regard?
executives and stuff like that, and I know my place, and that's not my place. So I try to look to other avenues that I can continue to promote the sport, or offer some assistance. If nationals are in town, see what I can do to help set up and take down, do any of that type of stuff. Having the opportunity with the podcasts, some of the mentorship opportunities at the tour events,
like the youth clinics,
which are phenomenal, right? It's just I think it's amping up the kind of the professional side of the game, and quite frankly, there's so many people that just want to see bowling succeed and watch this tour succeed. It gives people that extra drive, and having the opportunity to see some of people I call true friends in this sport doing something that they want to do to try to progress into something well beyond our time in the sport, and watching it grow. It's kind of like watching a baby grow up, right? I've had the opportunity with my son, and you see it every year. There's something new and innovative and different, and every year you guys knock our socks off, right? There's something new that drives, and it's phenomenal. Everybody just wants to see it grow.
Yeah, that's awesome, and thank you for stepping up and being a part of the podcast and being a part of some of these things. And I know in the past that you're kind of in the background and you're still playing well and doing your things, but I appreciate you kind of coming into the fold. You're part of our game. You're the face of our game, and I'm glad you're a part of it. And you have lots of knowledge to share, and that's why we're doing things like this and the podcast, and I appreciate that. So so based on that, let's segue into some of the rules and changes for this coming season.
Sure.
So bear with me. I'm just going to read off a piece of paper here a little bit. So rules changes, rules of note for this year. We're going to so the Tour Championship. In order to qualify, we're going to keep the rule the same. And just so people know, this decision was not taken lightly. Lots of bantering back and forth, lots of arguments, lots of this way and that. We've done surveys on Facebook. So this year we're going to do 2 out of 4 again for the tournaments. So your best 2 out of 4. In the future, we're trying to encourage more participation, so that might change down the road. But this year we felt that it was best to do 2 out of 4. So you can play all 4 tournaments, but your best 2 results will qualify. Like I said, this is not taken lightly. We've talked about this a lot. So this is basically what we came up with. So then, obviously, we want everybody to play 2 tournaments, so that's your minimum on tour, and then your best 2 out of 4 will count. I mean, ultimately down the road, I'd love to see you just sign up for the tour, and however many tournaments you play, that counts. You bowl 1, 4, 2, 3, whatever, that would count. But at this point, this is kind of where we're at. Our membership is $100. Our associate member is $20. Associate members, what you don't realize is you get information. You get we have a magazine subscription which we shared recently. I wanted to share that because a lot of people don't know that we're doing that because you're not a member, right? So we've done the magazine about 3 or 4 times a year. We send that out to hard copies to everybody. So we need more members for that. Being associate helps us pay for a lot of these expenses too, right? So. Our Tour Championship hosts are Sherwood Park, so Sherwood Bowl in Sherwood Park. So thank you for Heritage Lanes for doing the last 3 years. It's kind of just a natural progression. We need somebody else to take it over, so Sherwood Bowl was more than willing to take it over. So thanks to Sherwood Bowl for stepping up and doing that. We really appreciate it.
Phenomenal hosts at Red Deer too.
Yeah, everything was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, they had a kitchen there and a barbecue, so we got a few things to work out, but we'll make it work.
Oh, they just treated everybody so great.
Yeah, Shelby and crew, we can't say enough about everything that you've done. I know you'll be there if we ever need you again. Yeah. So just phenomenal job at Heritage Lanes, Shelby Crest and Company and Mike Tweedy and the rest. So thanks to you all. So one thing we're going to hopefully implement this year, I didn't want to say it for sure, but we anticipate there being 100 members. We were at 82 last year. We've gone up every year. I'm pretty sure we can hit 100. We're going to cap the tournament at $15,000. This year it was about $14,000, so we look to increase the prize money $1,000, and then we'll cap it at that. If there's any extra money and revenues, it looks good. We're still looking at it. We're hopefully doing some travel expenses for our members.
That's pretty cool.
So we've had a lot of people reach out. We understand that we're trying to get everybody to be involved, so we're hopefully implementing some travel expenses. So if you're Ontario East, it'd be like a $400 travel expense. Manitoba would be $300. BC and Saskatchewan would be $200, and then if you're an Alberta resident, it would be $100. Obviously, it's dependent on where the Tour Championship is being hosted. If it's in a different province, then that might be changed. But we're hoping this can go through to help increase our membership, give some people that have a lot of travel expenses some extra cash to come in. One thing we also want to do is, being at the airport's relatively close to Sherwood Park, we're going to offer airport pickups. So if everybody need a ride from the airport, you don't have to rent a car, we'll pick you up. Also, we're just slowly in the process of getting some billets on hand. So like myself, I'll be willing to billet some people for the Tour Championship and maybe a few others. So if people don't want to pay for a hotel, there's your option. You can stay with a billet and go with those guys. So we listen to our bowlers. Yeah. We understand it costs money to come to these events, and definitely we need to have the money to pay for these things, but with the increased membership and support and even associate members, we're hoping that we can implement this going forward and make more people come out.
Excellent idea. Especially, recently we've had the guys from Ontario, Mitch specifically.
Mike Herbert.
Right? It's having that as an opportunity for like the Tour Championship to offer just a few extra $100 to cover even as one flight type thing, right? It's I think it's invaluable. And it shows that WCBT cares about those guys, that we're forward thinking as well, that we're trying to progress all the time, and really put the value for what we're charging for the memberships as well, right? It's there is a value there.
I think there's a huge value.
Even the associate members, right? You're still part of the tour. You know that. Even that $20, you're getting a couple little items for it, but you're also supporting the tour. You're supporting the growth of the tour with a $20 donation, essentially, right? So it's there's a lot that people won't see in the background, and what you guys are doing here is phenomenal. And I have the opportunity to speak with many of those guys every week, so it's. The stuff in the background is invaluable. It really is.
Yeah. So basically, thanks to everyone for the podcast, the participation, the memberships, the sharing on Facebook. We've definitely seen an increase in that. We got our episodes out there on Facebook and YouTube now. We appreciate the up push from that. We appreciate the other tours taking on the Newfoundland Bowling Tour, the Club Tour. I mean, ultimately, if we could have a nationwide tour, I would think that would be the ultimate goal. Obviously, with time and money and travel and everything, it's a tough thing, but I think that's somewhere we're progressing into. So maybe that would be a future goal of the WCBT, is have a Canadian tour and bring all the tours together. I think that would be ideal. We're getting there.
Yeah.
People are jumping on board. We jump through our fair share of headaches and roadblocks and red tape, but I think we're progressing in the right way. Okay, that being said, I just wanted to introduce our board for this year. We just had our AGM back in August after the Tour Championship. So our current president and still president, Carey Kreitz. First vice president is myself. We've had a change in the second vice president, is now Dexter Wiseman. Our treasurer is still Blair Tuck. Treasurer, stats guy, fantasy guy, whatever you want to call him. He's the guru.
Yeah.
If you need a stat, we'll try to come up with it. We're trying to look at stats going forward. So we've had a couple talk to a group called Sports Engine, and we're trying to figure out how we can do data compiling and stats. So look for some things in that regard going forward. Our secretary, Jen Baldwin. We have some directors now. So we have a BC director. Matt Eisenhower is our BC director. Our Saskatchewan director is Michael Wist. I haven't quite confirmed with him, but I'm sure he's good to go. Manitoba, we're looking for a Manitoba director. These directors are just a person of contact, someone who can relay information for us, do's and don'ts, what we're doing well, how can we help the other provinces and that thing. So Manitoba, we're vacant, so we're definitely looking at a director for that. And we also signed on Tyler Titgat for communications, helping myself out with magazines and working on the interview today. So Tyler helped me with interview questions for you and helped me with that type of thing. So Tyler's a young kid, obviously in the game, and he's a great addition to our team to help out with that. He's created some of our PDFs and stuff of late. So thanks for coming aboard, everybody. And to you, Adam, thanks for taking the time to come down here. I think we planned on this being 20, 30 minutes, but it might have turned into a little longer than that. But thanks for coming by. You're the face of the game right now, and people want to know what you're thinking and learn from you and whatnot. So I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate Tyler helping me with questions. 5-Pin Universe has set up all the interview and camera equipment here. So thanks for everything.
Well, thanks for having me here, and I definitely see the sport growing in a positive way. I can't wait to see how far the WCBT goes. I think we're ready for that big explosion. Like we're ready.
We're close.
It's coming.
Yeah, we want to be on. Our future goal will be back on TSN, CBC. Sportsnet never had bowling before. Maybe they're relatively new to the game.
Oh,
Maybe
they all have like 14 channels now too, right? So I would love to see that be kind of the next progression. Until then, I really want to see social media blow up. I want to see getting player profiles out there. Really promote the players in the sport. Promote the sponsors. Obtain sponsors. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to go a long ways in promoting this tour, for example. Having that title sponsor, I think, would be the big step to really progressing. So if there's people out there that I know have contacts and they're just waiting. This tour is about to explode.
I think so.
I can't wait to see.
I mean, we've had lots of talks. We've had an off-the-cuff conversation with our friends down south in the PBA about having a conjunction event. That was a brief conversation. We're looking at picking up some new sponsors this year. We're in talks right now, so if we can get a few $1,000s from that. So we're always constantly working, and maybe sometimes during our day jobs and stuff, which almost every day, but we're always working. We're always looking for new things and new ideas and new sponsors, and I think we have a product there that is there. Our online presence is huge. Our numbers and our views and our hits are all there. I think we have a really good product. It's just getting the stigma about the couch 10-pin
Yeah.
fat guy bowling, like the Big Lebowski kind of thing. Not that he's not cool, but
Yeah.
getting that off to the side and like we're a sport. We're here to be a sport. This is not an easy game. It's just as hard as any other sport, and that's where we want to be, and that's hopefully where we're gonna be at when this is all said and done.
No, I agree. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
And obviously, thanks to everybody on every board across Canada. Obviously, the ones in Alberta and WCBT that I feel a little bit closer to. The work that you guys are putting towards this sport, it's not going unnoticed. The whole bowling community is starting to recognize the efforts that people are doing in the background. They're really starting to share a lot of their experiences. We're seeing meme pages and blogs pop up all over the place, challenge matches all over the place. It's the little things that keep progressing our sport, and sharing those experiences, getting some of those legends back and getting those interviews, and really have an understanding where we were in the past, where we're at now, and then seeing what that future is going to be. And the WCBT is that forward thinking. I can't wait to see where it progresses. MBT is that next little fun one, and now we're starting to see maybe the potential of an East Coast bowling tour type of a style. So the game's alive and well. It was dying for quite some time, and the presence and the efforts of the organizations and the bowlers within those organizations, because without the bowlers nothing happens either, right? So it's having that collective, getting the old stigma out of the way, that I'm not good enough to help, or I just don't have the time, or doing all that. And we're starting to see more and more of that community share, the community progression of the sport. And as long as that keeps going, the sport literally has no ceiling.
Kind of seems like people bowling in the past, I'm busy, I don't want to volunteer for that, or I don't want to do this. But I feel like we've created like this special thing now, and people want to, hey, how can I help out? I'm getting all these, I don't have enough jobs for people to do sometimes, right? So,
but people are definitely willing to put themselves out there now, and we're
it's a big change.
Well, we're starting to see even things that we weren't even thinking. Like Tracy Smith on the podcast there a couple weeks ago just had a vision and wanted to use our media to push a vision out there, and all of a sudden we saw that vision explode especially in the female side of the game. And it's the little things that add up for long-term gain. So I've loved the sport forever. I will love it forever. Say I'm going to retire every second year. I'm sure a lot of people would like me to retire.
You're giving me strength right now.
but it's good as long as people progress in this game. The game's going to go. So obviously, I wouldn't be here without the support of a lot of people, a lot of old mentors. Obviously, my family. Extended family, like the bowling family. We're all one. And that's what people have to realize, that we can all make an individual change that will make that group change, and it all starts at like the low level. So
we're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.